Today is going to be my first video about pointe shoes, and there'll be a series of them where I discuss different aspects. Today I'm going to just talk about and go through a little tutorial about how I sew on my ribbons and elastics. I also always receive questions about exactly what type of shoes I'm wearing at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and go through some of those details with you as well. I wear Freed classic pointe shoes, and my maker is Bell. My size is 4.5 with a heel pin in a XX. I get the sides cut down a little bit, and I also have the front of the box tilted slightly so that it pushes me over the shoe a bit more. My shank is a 2.5 insole, and I have the cloth drawstring and not the elastic. And I think that's about it. I've worn Freed pointe shoes on and off for a very long time, and my specs have changed quite a bit. When I was dancing with San Francisco Ballet, my size, I was actually in a 5 no X, so that's as narrow as it gets. Obviously that's a longer shoe and a much more narrow shoe. The reasons for that is that my feet may have changed a little bit, and also I've learned that depending on where you are in the world, different people have different ideas of what is a proper fit. I've found through my own personal experience that in America the shoes tend to be fit more narrow, and here in England what I've experienced is that they prefer a wider shoe on the dancers, which is a little interesting fact. Alright, let's jump into the tutorial and I'll show you how I sew on the ribbons and elastics onto my pointe shoes. Alright, let's talk about what you'll need. I like to use floss as my thread because it's really sturdy and doesn't break for anything. You're also going to need a needle, your elastic. I like to buy this one. It is the Freed Vamp elastic, and I just buy it in bulk, so it comes like this. You'll also need ribbon. This option is the Capezio nylon ribbon, which is actually the ribbon that San Francisco Ballet officially uses. And then another option is the Block Elasto-Rib pointe shoe ribbon, and you'll see this has a little bit of elastic which is meant to go over the Achilles tendon, and it's a slightly lighter color as well. And finally, a thimble is an optional supply. Oh, and of course your pointe shoe. So we're going to start just by marking where we're going to place the ribbons and elastic. So to do this, just fold over the back heel and then take a pencil and lightly mark right where that crease is. And then go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. And just double check that you can see it on both sides. Now we're going to measure our elastic to see just how much we need. You're going to see that I'm going to use a cross elastic method. So placing one end of the elastic by the heel, pulling it across the ankle, finding where that pencil mark is that we just did, you're just going to roughly estimate how much elastic you'll need to make it not too tight, not too loose, and keep in mind that we're going to be folding over the elastic. So leave a little extra just so it won't be too tight and you'll have some room to play with. So once you've figured out the correct length, just use that as a reference guide and cut 4 pieces of elastic. I like to reuse my ribbon and elastic as many times as possible, so to help them last longer, I always burn the edges. Next, take out some of your floss so we can get sewing. Thread the needle. And then go ahead and make a knot at the end. I'll show you how I do it. So, taking it into my fingers like this, I wrap it around my index finger, like so, and then I just roll it back and forth a little bit, and then roll it off of my finger. And then pull through to tighten the knot. Alright, let me show you that again. So wrap it around the index finger, roll it back and forth, slide it off a little bit, and then use the other fingers with the thumb to pull it through. Now you might have to do this a couple times or it might slip off, like it did for me just there. But I promise once you get this, it's super fast and super easy. Starting with the elastic, you're going to fold a small edge away from you and place that right at the back of your heel. Then I'm gonna just start sewing from the inside, going out. I try and make my sewing process as quick as possible because I go through a lot of shoes. So I literally just place the needle right at the top on the outside. I know you'll see a line, but from far away you really won't see much. And I just continue along in this way. So pulling through, coming right above it, and pulling through the other way. Here's a little closer look for you. At this point, I feel as though it's okay to go through your elastic drawstring. It really won't affect too much. So from the inside, it'll look like this. And to finish it off, this is what I do. I'm going through the elastic and then the inside fabric. Now make sure that you don't go through the outside, otherwise you'll be able to see it. I'm doing this because it'll create a better base for me to tie my knot. I take the thread in one hand and the needle in the other and circle around like this. Then I'm going to pull it tight, place my fingers here, and continue pulling. Then I'm just going to repeat the same process a number of times. Maybe about 5 or 6 times even, just to make sure that the knot is big enough that it's not going to go anywhere. And then just cut that off. Now make another knot in your thread or floss in the first method that I taught before. Then we're just going to repeat exactly the same on the other side. Folding, placing, sewing. The purpose of folding over the elastic in this way is just to give your sewing a better anchor. And here's another view of how I tied that knot again. So now we have our 2 elastics on the back of the heel. Next we're going to find where that pencil mark was, right about here, and we're going to place the back end of the elastic and the ribbon right on the edge of that pencil mark. Now we're going to fold over the elastic away from you in the same way that you did before. Take your ribbon and also fold it in the same direction that you just folded the elastic. Then place the ribbon right on top of the elastic. We're going to sew these together because it's going to make it a lot faster, and it's also going to hide that extra elastic. Now we're just going to place that again using our pencil marks. And then we're going to slightly angle both the ribbon and the elastic towards the toe. This is so that when you're standing or on point, the ribbon does not look baggy on the foot. If you sew from the heel towards the toe in this direction, it's going to be easier to keep that angle of the elastic and ribbon. Then going from the inside, moving out, start your sewing. I sew the ribbons in a similar way to the elastics, except there's one major difference. We are not going to sew through the drawstring in the way that we did before. Let me show you what I mean. So instead of sewing through that fabric, we're going above it, just right here. This is because you don't want to affect the drawstring in this area. You want to be able to use that drawstring to tighten that part of the shoe if you need it. Let's take a closer look as I continue sewing. After you have about 2 stitches, you can wiggle that ribbon and elastic just a little bit, again angling towards the toe so that we don't have any bagging. Once we've finished sewing that bit, let's turn the heel inside out. We're going to begin sewing around the elastic and the ribbon, taking just the inside layer of fabric. Again, you'd want to make sure that you're not getting both layers of fabric. So just take the inside layer like this and then go through until you get to the elastic. And just keep sewing all the way around. Finish it off in exactly the same way as the elastic. Go through the elastic and the ribbon, through just one layer of fabric, and then tie your knot. And there you have it, a finished ribbon. Of course, if you want to, you can do many more than just those 4 stitches on the outside, but I think that by going around on the inside as well, it also helps keep everything really strong and secure. Then just go ahead and repeat exactly the same thing on the other side. The only thing I'll do different is make sure that both ribbons are lined up evenly, and I do this just by pinching together the ribbons and elastics like this. And that's it! Now you guys know how I sew the ribbons and elastics onto my pointe shoes. I hope you guys found my first pointe shoe tutorial helpful. There's more to come. I'm going to be showing you how to darn in the next video, and also what I do to break in my pointe shoes, including cutting the shank and all sorts of other tips and tricks that I have. So stay tuned for that. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me comments below and let me know what you want to see in upcoming videos. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks so much. Bye. Thank you.